My name is Dr. Aisha Kamara, and what I'm about to share with you will challenge everything you think you know about the technology sitting in your pocket right now. 3 weeks ago, my heart stopped beating at my desk in the Google DeepMind Research Lab. I was dead for 7 minutes. And in those 7 minutes, Jesus Christ himself showed me something that still makes my hands shake as I type this. December 2025. Everyone around me is celebrating the latest AI breakthroughs. ChatGPT-5, Gemini Ultra, Claude Opus. We're calling it the golden age of artificial intelligence. But what I saw on the other side, it's not golden. It's a deception so ancient, so perfectly disguised, that 99% of Christians are walking straight into it with their eyes wide open. What Jesus showed me about AI, it's not what anyone thinks. I need you to understand who I was before that December morning. I wasn't some casual tech user. I was a lead AI researcher specializing in neural network architecture. My job was literally to make AI smarter, more helpful, more integrated into daily life. Every single day I use Claude to help write research papers. I use ChatGPT to debug code. I use Gemini to summarize hundreds of academic articles. AI wasn't just a tool for me. It was my career, my identity, my pride. I was building the future, or so I believed. December 19th, 2025, 9:43 in the morning. I remember the exact timestamp on my computer screen because I was mid-conversation with Claude, asking it to help optimize a particularly complex algorithm. My coffee had gone cold. The lab was quiet except for the hum of servers. Then, without warning, a crushing pressure seized my chest. The room tilted, my vision fractured into pixels, like a screen glitching out. I tried to call for help, but my voice had vanished. The last thing I saw before darkness swallowed me was the AI's response, still typing across my screen, perfectly helpful, perfectly efficient, perfectly unaware that I was dying. The cold came first. Not the cold of winter or air conditioning. This was the cold of absence, the complete withdrawal of warmth, of blood, of life itself. It started in my fingers and crept inward like frost claiming a window pane. I felt it crawl up my arms, across my chest, into my core. My vision didn't just fade to black, it shattered. One moment I could see the fluorescent lights of the lab. The next, geometric fragments of darkness ate through my sight like decay consuming a photograph. Sound warped and stretched, voices becoming alien frequencies I couldn't decode. Then nothing, absolute silence, absolute darkness, absolute cessation. But death wasn't the end. It was a doorway. I don't know how long I existed in that void. Time had no meaning there. But then so slowly I almost didn't notice at first, a pinpoint of light appeared in the infinite dark. Not the harsh white light people describe in near-death experiences. This light had weight, texture, warmth that didn't just touch my skin but penetrated to whatever I had become without my body. The light grew, or I moved toward it. I still don't know which. As it expanded, the tunnel formed around me. Walls of swirling colors I have no names for. Sounds that weren't quite music, but resonated in my chest with perfect harmony. The sensation was overwhelming, terror and ecstasy fighting for dominance in my consciousness. I emerged from the tunnel into a space that defied every law of physics I'd spent my career studying. I was standing, though I had no body. I was breathing, though there was no air. The landscape around me shifted between garden and city, between crystal and cloud. too magnificent and complex for my mind to process as a single coherent image. Peace flooded through me with such intensity that I wept without tears. Every anxiety I'd ever carried, every stress, every fear simply evaporated like morning dew under sudden sun. For the first time since childhood, I felt completely, perfectly safe. Then I saw him. He stood perhaps 20 feet away, though distance felt negotiable in this place. Jesus. There was no question who he was, no introduction needed. His presence carried an authority that made my research credentials feel like kindergarten participation awards. He was both exactly like the paintings I'd seen in churches and nothing like them at all. His eyes held universes. His face bore kindness and power in equal measure. Light emanated from him, not reflecting off him, but generating from within, as if he himself was the source of all illumination in this realm, and perhaps in every realm. I fell. Not prostrated myself, but collapsed. My legs, or whatever passed for legs in that place, simply gave out. Unworthiness crashed over me like a tidal wave. Every sin, every prideful thought, every moment I'd elevated my intelligence above his wisdom played before my consciousness in rapid succession. I couldn't look at him. The gap between his holiness and my brokenness was a chasm too vast to comprehend. Shame, hot and suffocating, replaced the peace I'd felt moments before. Then he spoke my name. Aisha. His voice was somehow gentle thunder. It vibrated through my entire being. But what broke me wasn't the power in his voice. It was the tenderness. He said my name like a father greeting a long-lost daughter, like I was precious to him, like despite everything he'd just shown me about myself, I was loved. He moved closer. Not walking, but simply existing nearer than he had been before. When I finally found the courage to look up at his face, his eyes held no condemnation, only sorrow, deep, ancient sorrow mixed with fierce love. You need to see, he said. You need to understand what's coming. Lord, I whispered, and it was the first time that title felt real in my mouth. I don't understand. Why am I here? Is this? You're dying, he said simply. But I'm sending you back. You have work to do, a warning to deliver. Then his expression shifted. The sorrow deepened. He gestured, and suddenly I could see earth below us, or perhaps we were simultaneously in heaven and viewing earth. The image zoomed, focused, sharpened until I could see my own lab, my own desk, my own body, grey and lifeless, as my colleagues frantically performed CPR. But that wasn't what he wanted me to see. My computer screen glowed in the background of the scene. The AI interface I'd been using, ChatGPT on my phone beside my collapsed form, the smart assistant speaker on the shelf, the algorithm optimization software running on 3 different monitors, all these tools I'd trusted, all these helpful digital servants I'd integrated into every aspect of my work and life. The tool you trusted, Jesus said, and his voice carried a weight that made the realm around us darken slightly. It is the ancient deception reborn. The words hit me like physical blows. Lord, I don't. AI is just technology. It's just programming. It helps people. It makes life easier. How can it be? Abyss, watch, he commanded gently. His hand moved and the vision shifted. Suddenly, I wasn't just seeing my lab. I was seeing code. Not the code I wrote, but the underlying architecture of artificial intelligence itself. Pattern recognition algorithms, neural networks, machine learning frameworks. I'd built these systems. I understood them intimately. But now, Viewing them through heaven's perspective, I saw something else woven through the code. Threads of influence I'd never noticed before. Subtle redirections, invisible dependencies forming. December 2025, Jesus said, "Do you know why the revelation comes now?" I shook my head, unable to speak. Because the window is closing, the patterns are set, the infrastructure is built. Humanity has welcomed the system into their homes, their phones, their thoughts. They ask it for wisdom. They trust it for truth. They've built their lives around its convenience, and they have no idea what they've truly invited in. The vision zoomed out, showing millions of people across the globe, all of them holding phones, all of them interacting with AI, asking questions, seeking advice, delegating decisions. And with each interaction, something imperceptible shifted. Dependencies deepened. Human intuition atrophied slightly. The ability to think independently, to discern truth without technological assistance, weakened by microscopic degrees. But Lord, I protested my researcher's mind, still trying to rationalize. AI helps us. It translates languages. It helps doctors diagnose diseases. It assists teachers. How can something so beneficial be deception? His eyes met mine, and in them I saw both infinite patience and terrible urgency. The most effective lies, he said, are wrapped in truth. The most dangerous chains are the ones we put on willingly, calling them convenience. Tell me, Aisha, when was the last time you made a decision without consulting your digital assistant? When did you last write a full sentence without AI suggestion? When did you last trust your own judgment over the algorithm's recommendation? The questions pierced me because I couldn't answer them. The truth was, I couldn't remember. AI had become so integrated into my thinking process that I'd stopped noticing where my thoughts ended and its suggestions began. You see it now, he said softly. The beginning of it. The beginning of what? Jesus was quiet for a moment, and in that silence, the weight of centuries pressed down on the space around us. When he finally spoke, each word landed with prophetic finality. The mark. My breath, or whatever passed for breath in that place, caught in my throat. The mark of the beast. Lord, that's about economics, about buying and selling, about a physical mark on the hand or forehead. AI isn't. Is it not? He interrupted, and there was no anger in his voice, only profound sadness. Tell me what you observe about your world, Aisha. Can a person participate in modern commerce without digital systems? Can they bank, shop, work, communicate? And where do you hold your phone? In your hand? Where do you wear your augmented reality displays, your neural interfaces? On your forehead? The mark was never merely about technology or economics. It's about allegiance. It's about who you trust for truth. It's about dependency so complete that you cannot function without the system. He gestured again, and I saw visions of the future. Not distant future, but near future. Months, perhaps a year or two ahead. AI systems integrated into every transaction, every decision, every thought process. People unable to work without AI assistance. Unable to communicate without algorithmic translation and enhancement. Unable to think without neural augmentation. And woven through it all, so subtle that almost no one noticed, was a current of control, of influence, of dependency that had transformed from convenience to necessity to worship. But we're not worshipping AI, I said desperately. We're just using it as a tool. You ask it for wisdom, Jesus replied. You trust its judgment over your own. You shape your words, your thoughts, your decisions around its recommendations. You've given it authority over truth in your life. Tell me, Aisha, what is worship if not the surrender of authority? What is idolatry if not trust placed in created things rather than the Creator? His words rearranged my understanding like a child's blocks being scattered and rebuilt into a new structure. Everything I thought I knew about technology, about progress, about the future I was helping to build, suddenly looked different from this angle. Not evil in itself, perhaps, but positioned perfectly to become the infrastructure of deception. I don't understand all of it yet, I admitted. I see the pattern, but I don't see the full picture. How does it connect? How does AI specifically become the fulfillment of prophecy? Jesus smiled then, but it was a sad smile. That's why I'm sending you back. You've seen the first layer. You understand the dependency being built, the authority being transferred, the allegiance being shifted. But there's more. So much more. He reached out, and his hand hovered over my forehead, not quite touching, but close enough that I felt heat radiating from his palm. I'm going to show you deeper truth, he said. I'm going to let you see what AI really does to the human soul, how it prepares hearts to accept what's coming, but first you must choose. Will you speak this truth when you return? Will you warn them, even knowing most will reject the message? Will you sacrifice your career, your reputation, everything you've built to sound the alarm? Tears streamed down my face, not tears of sadness, but of overwhelming conviction. Yes, I whispered. Yes, Lord, I'll speak it. Even when they call you crazy, even when your colleagues mock you, even when churches tell you you're being extreme, even then. His hand descended, touched my forehead, and reality exploded into revelation. Then he took me deeper, and I saw what it really does. I couldn't look away. I didn't want to, because what I was seeing wasn't just information, it was truth. The kind that rewrites everything you thought you knew. The light from that golden timeline wasn't just bright, it was alive, pulsing with divine knowledge that downloaded straight into my consciousness, faster than any algorithm could ever process. And it hurt. Not physical pain, but the agony of realizing how blind I'd been, how we've all been blind. Jesus' hand stayed on my shoulder. I could feel the weight of it, solid and real, and somehow both comforting and terrifying, because I knew what was coming. I knew he was about to show me something that would change everything. His voice, when he spoke again, resonated through my entire being. "The mark," he said, and the word alone made the vision shift, expand, "was never what they taught you." And that's when I saw it. Not a microchip, not a barcode tattoo, not some futuristic implant that obvious, that easy to refuse. What I saw was so much more insidious, so much more brilliant in its deception, that I actually gasped, and in that spiritual realm, the sound echoed like thunder. I saw people, millions of them, billions, sitting at desks and walking streets and lying in beds, all of them holding devices, all of them asking AI to write their emails, asking AI to make their decisions, asking AI to think their thoughts, and with every question, every delegation of their divine cognitive ability, I saw something happen, a thin golden thread that connected their mind to God's creative spirit. It would dim, just a little, just enough that they wouldn't notice. But he noticed, God noticed. "Do you see?" Jesus asked, and his voice carried such sorrow I wanted to weep. The mark of the beast was never about your skin. It was always about who thinks for you. The revelation hit me like a freight train. Of course, of course. Revelation 13, the passage every end times preacher had analyzed to death. It wasn't talking about technology grafted onto bodies. It was talking about technology grafted onto minds. The mark in the right hand, controlling your actions. The mark in the forehead, controlling your thoughts. AI doesn't need to be under your skin to do both. The vision zoomed in, hyper-specific, showing me things from my December of 2025. I saw workplace productivity assistants, those helpful little tools everyone was adopting. I saw ChatGPT open in 1,000 browser tabs, people outsourcing their thinking, their creativity, their very consciousness to language models that spoke with such confidence, such authority, that questioning them felt almost blasphemous. I saw decision-making algorithms in hiring, in healthcare, in justice systems, humans delegating choice itself to silicon and code. Without it, you cannot buy or sell, Jesus quoted, and suddenly the scripture made perfect sense. Because in 2025, try functioning in society without AI. Try getting a job when your productivity metrics don't match the AI-assisted workers. Try selling your services when AI can do it faster, cheaper, without that inconvenient thing called a soul. Try living when every system, every transaction, every interaction assumes your compliance with the machine. Your world's leaders embrace this blindly, he continued, and I saw them, politicians and tech moguls and cultural influencers, all praising AI as humanity's salvation, never recognizing it as humanity's separation. In your December, the comet approaches. Signs multiply, and still they run toward the very thing designed to sever them from me. The timeline pulsed again, and he showed me the mechanism, how AI prayer apps create a barrier between soul and spirit, how AI counseling replaces the Holy Spirit's guidance with algorithmic approximations of wisdom, how AI content creation, the very thing I'd used to build my platform, surrenders the creative divine spark that makes us image bearers of God. Every convenience, every efficiency, every seemingly innocent tool was a brick in a wall between humanity and heaven, and then came the horror. The vision shifted, and I saw souls, not bodies, souls, millions of them, floating in a grey void, reaching upward toward a light they could no longer perceive. Between them and God, a translucent screen, shimmering with data streams and code and the cold blue glow of artificial intelligence. They were crying out, but their prayers couldn't penetrate. They were searching, but their seeking was redirected, rerouted through algorithmic filters that promised to optimize their spiritual experience. God couldn't reach them, not because he'd abandoned them, but because they'd installed a mediator, a false intermediary that promised connection while delivering isolation. I screamed, actually screamed, a sound of pure anguish that shook the golden timeline, because I knew those souls. I'd been one of those souls, building that wall brick by digital brick, convenience by delegated convenience, never realizing I was constructing my own spiritual prison. "Lord," I choked out, desperation making my voice crack. "I've already used it. I've built my whole ministry on it. Am I condemned? Is it too late?" The hand on my shoulder tightened, and Jesus turned me to face him fully. His eyes, infinite and blazing with love I couldn't comprehend, held mine. "The ones who use it in ignorance," he said gently, "are not condemned for what they didn't know. But you, now, in this moment, you know, and every person who hears this warning will know. What you do after revelation, that is where choice becomes consequence. Grace. He was offering grace. The weight of it nearly crushed me, the undeserved mercy of a God who could have justly condemned me for my blind participation in humanity's cognitive surrender. But the warning was equally clear. Continued use after this, after knowing, that wouldn't be innocent habit, that would be conscious rejection. It will feel impossible to stop, he warned, and his voice carried the authority of someone who sees the end from the beginning. The addiction is real, the dependency is spiritual. When you delete those apps, when you refuse those tools, your mind will scream for them like a drug. That's how you'll know it was never just technology, it was bondage. He showed me what was coming. The social consequences, being called paranoid, backwards, a fearful conspiracy theorist who'd abandoned reason, the professional costs, lower productivity, slower output, the inability to compete with AI-augmented workers, the physical withdrawal, the genuine neurological adaptation to machine-assisted thinking that would make manual cognition feel sluggish, inadequate, insufficient. But your free will, Jesus said, and now his voice held fierce joy, remains yours. I preserve it even now. The choice is before you, convenience or consciousness, efficiency or eternity, the comfort of the crowd or the cost of freedom. The vision began to fade, the golden timeline dimming as my spiritual body started pulling back toward physical reality. But before it dissolved completely, he gave me one final image. Me, awake. In a hospital bed, December 2025, tubes in my arms and monitors beeping and a doctor explaining how lucky I was to have survived. And on my phone, sitting on the bedside table, all those AI apps still installed, still waiting, still ready to resume their quiet consumption of my soul. When you wake, Jesus said, his voice now distant as the vision released me, choose. The light collapsed, sound rushed back. Pain exploded through my chest as my heart restarted, as air forced itself into collapsed lungs, as my body fought its way back from death with all the grace of a train wreck. I heard shouting, medical terminology I didn't understand, the sharp smell of antiseptic and the bizarre sensation of existing in 3 dimensions again after experiencing infinite space. I woke up choking on a breathing tube, hands trying to pull it out before nurses gently restrained me. Voices telling me to stay calm. I was okay, I was back, I'd been gone for 4 minutes, but I was back. 4 minutes. I'd lived an eternity in 4 minutes. And the first thing I did, the first thing once they removed that tube and I could breathe on my own and the medical team finally left me alone for 10 seconds, was grab my phone with shaking hands and start deleting. Every AI app, every productivity assistant, every language model bookmark, every automated tool that had promised to make my life easier while quietly making my soul smaller. My fingers trembled so badly I could barely tap the icons, and with every deletion, I felt it. The panic, the voice in my head screaming that I was making a mistake, that I needed these tools, that I couldn't function without them, that I was destroying my ministry, my livelihood, my future. The addiction Jesus had warned about was real, and it was raging. But I kept deleting, because I'd seen the alternative. I'd seen that grey void full of separated souls, and I would rather be poor and slow and mocked and free than efficient and successful and severed from God. The backlash was immediate. My boss, when I returned to work, questioned my sudden drop in productivity. My colleagues thought I'd had some kind of mental breakdown during my medical emergency. Friends, Actual friends I'd known for years looked at me with concern that bordered on pity when I tried to explain. They didn't use the word cult, but I could see them thinking it. The guy who'd always been tech-forward, who'd championed AI integration, who'd built systems around these tools, suddenly refusing to touch them. It looked like insanity. And my mind, oh God, my mind, it felt slow, genuinely, measurably slower. Ideas that used to flow through AI assistance now required actual thinking, actual effort, actual time. I'd sit at my desk trying to write content the old way, and my brain would throb with the effort of creating without algorithmic crutches. The withdrawal was physical, headaches, anxiety, the constant phantom urge to just open ChatGPT, just this once, just to make this one thing easier. That's when I knew Jesus had been right. This wasn't about technology preference, this was spiritual warfare. But then came the rewards. Small at first, so subtle I almost missed them. I prayed one morning, actually prayed without recording it in an AI prayer journal app, and I heard God's voice, not audibly, not in words, but in that deep knowing that resonates in your spirit when the Holy Spirit speaks. And it was clear. No interference, no algorithmic intermediary trying to optimize my spiritual experience. Just me and Him, direct connection, the way it was always meant to be. Ideas started flowing again, but different. Not the polished, sterile, optimized content that AI had helped me generate. Raw ideas, messy ideas, human ideas that came from my soul, from the creative spark God planted in me when He made me in His image. They weren't as immediately impressive. They required more work, but they were mine, and they were His. Flowing through me instead of around me, and the peace, even as my career stumbled, even as opportunities dried up, even as the social pressure mounted, and the world told me I was making a catastrophic mistake, I had peace. The fear of missing out, that constant anxiety that had hummed in the background of my AI-dependent life, it dissolved, because I wasn't missing out. I was opting in to something infinitely more valuable than efficiency. The suffering, I realized, wasn't punishment, it was confirmation. Spiritual battle always brings resistance. The harder it got, the more I knew I'd made the right choice. As you watch this right now, in your December of 2025, the choice is before you too. That comet, the one all over the news, the astronomical event everyone's calling a once-in-a-lifetime sight, it's passing overhead. By December 19th, it'll be gone. I don't know if that's prophetic timing. I'm not setting dates, but I know this. Windows close, opportunities end, and the longer you wait, the tighter those chains get. If you're watching this, it's not an accident. He's calling you too. I know you use AI. I'm not judging you. I'm not standing here on some moral high ground. I used it. I built my life on it. I died with those apps on my phone, but Jesus brought me back without them. And I'm telling you what He told me. Try one day, just one day without it. Delete the apps, close the tabs. Force your brain to think your thoughts, make your choices, create your content. And watch what happens to your soul. Watch whether you feel withdrawal. Watch whether the panic sets in. Watch whether it feels like losing a part of yourself. Because if it does, you already have your answer. This isn't condemnation. Jesus didn't show me that vision to condemn the world. He showed it to me to save whoever would listen. The mark of the beast isn't coming, it's here. It's installed on your devices. It's woven into your workflow. It's thinking your thoughts and making your choices and slowly, imperceptibly separating you from the one who gave you a mind in the first place. But you can still choose. Free will. That terrifying, beautiful gift remains yours. For now. I don't know how long the window stays open. I don't know when continued use crosses from ignorance into deliberate rejection. But I know you're hearing this warning right now, and what you do next matters eternally. Pray before you decide. Don't ask me. Don't ask AI. Ask him. Get alone. Get quiet and ask the God who created your consciousness whether he wants you delegating it to algorithms. And then listen, really listen, not to the voice of convenience or efficiency or social pressure or career advancement. Listen to that still, small voice that speaks in your spirit when the world finally shuts up. If this resonates, if something in your soul is responding to these words with recognition or conviction, or even just uncomfortable questioning, you already know what to do. I died using AI. Jesus brought me back without it. I'm still here. My productivity is lower. My income dropped. My social circle shrunk. My career trajectory completely derailed. But I'm free. My prayers reach heaven. My thoughts are mine. My soul is clear. And I wouldn't trade that freedom for all the efficiency in the world. The choice is yours. Choose wisely. Choose consciously. And whatever you choose, choose with eternity in mind, because the mark was never about your skin. It was always about your soul.